Hey, it's Candia Raquel, founder of Centro de Poder. Welcome to the Sensual Sessions podcast, the place to be to sense your fire, to share your flame. And today we have a very special guest. This is Sharon Gimpel, a Feldenkrais practitioner, doula, amazing woman. Welcome, Sharon. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Candia. It's so exciting for me to be here with you. I feel very honored, and I love what you're doing and what you're bringing to this space. I think it's so important, and I have this thirst for something like what you're offering for such a long time. So I'm so happy that we connected. So yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Connect with you too, and tell the sensualist, our audience, that you are going to share with us some exquisiteness about somatic movement and the sense of the pelvic floor in a very unique and singular way that is not like the typical cookie cutter of do 5 kegels with this app and etc. That is like a general, but what you're gonna share with us has to do with the singularity of sensing oneself and enjoying. So why don't we get started? Tell us, what is this about?
Yeah, I was thinking to bring something about the pelvic floor because, and it's even, I don't even like calling it the pelvic floor, it's all this area, but it's an area that it's just not so familiar for many people. And I think by it not being familiar, what we know about the self-image and about how the way our brain works is that the more we sense, the more we can sense. The more we use our senses, the richer the experience is. And I feel with the whole area of the pelvis and the pelvic floor, we're not sensing it. Many of us are quite detached from it. I was thinking about it the other day that even, babies who wear nappies all day,
Yes.
and all night, there's no chance to touch, to feel. And as babies, we experience our bodies and we find out about our bodies so much through touch, aren't we? And we spend all these kind of few years of the beginning of life when so much is happening with all this area being kind of out of touch. So I'm wondering how it affects the experience of what the pelvis is for us and the pelvic floor and this area that is so sensual and kind of like hidden from us.
Yeah.
And then also there's all the cultural thing around it and the fear and the trauma sometimes. So I'm really, I feel passionate about bringing awareness to this area, and so I would love to just start with bringing awareness to this area in connection with the whole body, not as a muscle that we need, like you say, it's not a muscle that we are kind of exercising, but this sensual part of our body that we can awaken and get to know. So you can come and sit. If you want to lie down, you can lie down or come and sit at the edge of your chair, or if you sit on the floor, you can sit cross-legged. You can close your eyes, so you can, when we close our eyes, we kind of can sense more inward. And just feel your sitting bones. And if you want, you can put your hands under the sitting bones just to have a sense, the sense of where the sitting bones are. So you can bring your hands under the sitting bones and just kind of wriggle a little bit to find out that, these are your sitting bones. Move a little bit forward and back and just sense Yeah, and then you can take your hands out and continue to just roll your pelvis a little bit forward and a little bit backwards. It's not a big movement, but just really to kind of find out a little bit more about these two sitting bones. So you come to lean a little bit in front of your sitting bones. Oh, thank you. Yeah, we can see you now. So do a much smaller movement and do it really slowly. You feel the roundness of the sitting bones and how you come to sit a little bit behind and feel what happens to the whole body, the whole spine and the abdomen. And then you climb kind of a little bit above the sitting bones and come to the front of the sitting bones and go a little bit like that, a bit forward and a bit backwards, slowly. Okay. And then leave it alone. And bring your awareness now to your pubic bone. And you can come and find it with your hand, maybe if you want. You go down the kind of soft belly, and just below that, you can find the pubic bone, which actually is a joint, but we call it the pubic bone. It gets softer and has some movement, especially in pregnancy and birth. And continue to do this movement now of rolling your pelvis a little bit forward and a little bit backwards. But now, in your awareness, have your pubic bone, the movement of your pubic bone in space. And you can have your hands on the pubic bone or not. You can choose what feels nice for you. And feel that as the pelvis rolls a little bit forward, the pubic bone comes a little bit towards the floor, towards the chair, kind of in between your legs. And then you roll the pelvis backwards and the pubic bone goes a little bit away from the chair or the floor, whatever you're on. And you have kind of the awareness of the movement of the pubic bone in space as the kind of front of your awareness, in the front of your awareness. And the backwards listen to the whole body, allowing the whole body to respond to the movement. Notice your breath. Your mouth can be a little bit open, your tongue can be soft. And then leave it alone. Just notice yourself in sitting. And then bring your attention to the tailbone. So the tailbone is, if we thinking about the pelvic floor, the skeletal structure around the pelvic floor is the pubic bone in the front, the two sitting bones on either side, and then the tailbone. So if you can draw an imaginary line between the pubic bone. Are you going to bring a pelvis to show us? Do you have a skeleton? Yeah, fantastic. Great. So you can, so we have the two sitting bones is like beautiful round. Yeah. And then the pubic bone in the front. Yeah. And then there's the tailbone at the back. The tailbone is the end of the spine. Yeah, exactly. Great. And now we can kind of let go of it's really beautiful to see the skeleton. Now we can close our eyes and let go of that and come back to our sensations of it. If you draw an imaginary line between your pubic bone to one sitting bone, and then from your sitting bone to your tailbone, and from your tailbone to the next sitting bone, and then back to your pubic bone, it's kind of a diamond shape, the diamond shape of the pelvic floor. Yeah, you can show that. That's beautiful. Yeah. Great. So that's the skeletal structure where the pelvic floor is like this hammock of muscles and soft tissues that sits in this skeletal structure. Thank you, Candia. Great. Good. So come back to this movement of rolling the pelvis a little bit forward and a little bit forward. Now with an attention, with your awareness on the movement of the tailbone. So the tailbone is coming towards the floor as you roll your pelvis forward and a little bit away from the floor as you roll the pelvis backward. I'm sitting on the floor, but if you're sitting on a chair, that it will be the chair. And just do it a few times like that with the awareness of the tailbone. Nice. And then start to include in your awareness, as you are staying aware of the tailbone, include also an awareness of this pubic bone. So you have in your awareness both the pubic bone and the tailbone, and the space between the pubic bone and the tailbone. It's a sensual experience. So really feel that space in your imagination, in your sensation, as your pelvis is moving like that. Sense the space between the tailbone and the pubic bone, moving like that, a little bit forward and a little bit back. Notice your breath. Do it even slower. It might be a bit tricky to have both the pubic bone and the tailbone in your attention at the same time, so you can choose to make it even slower and even smaller. Allow the whole spine to respond. Notice your breath. And then you can add to it the awareness of your sitting bones. And this whole space, this whole diamond, moving like that, a little bit forward and a little bit backwards. Nice. Okay, leave it alone and just rest for a moment. Do whatever you need to do to feel rested in this place. And then come back to the awareness of this diamond, the diamond of the pelvic floor, the pubic bone to one sitting bone, to the tailbone, to the other sitting bone, and back to the pubic bone. And just start to notice your breath. And as you breathe out now, the next time you breathe now out, imagine that this whole diamond becomes a little bit smaller, a little bit narrower. And as you breathe in, you're thinking of this whole diamond becoming wider, creating space. You breathe out, and this diamond becomes smaller, narrower. You might feel a sense of becoming a little bit taller, sense of uprightness. And then as you breathe in, there's a sense of widening, creating space in the pelvic floor, this diamond becoming wider. And do it like that. Every time you breathe out, the sense of gathering a little bit of this diamond of the pelvic floor. And as you breathe in, a sense of really letting go, creating space. You might feel your sitting bones coming a little bit away from each other as you breathe in. And then as you breathe out, the sitting bone coming towards each other a little bit. The sense of becoming taller, Notice your mouth as you do that. Allow your mouth to be soft. Allow the tongue to be soft and the eyes are soft. And really pay attention to the letting go when you breathe in. This widening of the pelvic floor, this creating space in that area of the pelvic floor as you breathe in. That's good. Yeah, if there's any movement that comes through your body, it comes through you, allow it to come. And that's great. Leave it alone. Maybe come to stand for a moment. Come to stand on your feet and just notice yourself in standing. Just this few minutes of exploration. See if anything comes to you in your experience of yourself in standing. If there's anything interesting in the sense of being in upright now. And then walk a little bit. That's great. Thank you. Yeah. So that's just a little taste of kind of, really coming to just awaken that part of our body that is so important for,
Yeah. The first thing that came to my mind was the phrase, I found happiness. Like with rainbow letters, like, I feel so. There are really no words. I could say relieving, empowering, sensual, pleasurable, but words fall short when you get in touch with the sense of yourself. Like really when you get to feel the best of you, like not the things that we externally value, but the sensation of, this is me. I enjoy how does it feels to be me, and this is my pelvic floor. And as I am sensing, I am reorganizing my posture, and I am reorganizing the way that I, through the relation to myself, present myself to the world or to the space. And something that I see, like in my reflection in the video, is that my posture is upright without any effort, and my shoulders are like back to their place, rested, and my cheeks are like blushed. It's a natural blushing, and that means that circulation improved. And I thought that in the way that you were guiding the movement, you were creating a very gentle and soft context, and also precise but approachable. Like, those are the sit. It's not something like super mystical that you cannot pinpoint. No, the sit bones are like very massive, and this is the pubic bone and the coccyx. And something that struck me in the right way was like, yes, this is very material, physical aspect of us that we tend to somehow neglect, even though it's like right there in our center between our legs. It's like, it's almost as if we culturally said like, no, we are not going to see our face, talk about our face, acknowledge our face because
Yeah.
whatever reason.
Absolutely.
And
It's
and
like
the
that.
face is like in your face. You touch it, you look at yourself in the mirror, you see the faces.
Yeah.
And the pelvic floor is the same. Like, I mean, it's not like the face and the cheeks, but we pee every day, and you like someone and you feel like alive there.
You
And
sense it. Yeah,
you
if you let yourself. Yeah.
and even like when you're eating, like for swallowing
That's
saliva, the pelvic floor accompanies the movement. Like
yeah.
there's no way to not notice the pelvic floor, but we socially have found a
We
way
kind of like do this.
to do this. So
Yeah.
I I believe that getting in touch with the pelvic floor, it's an exercise of honesty to oneself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like
I love that. An exercise of honesty. It's all these things. And of course, I mean, the brilliance of Feldenkrais is in the kind of materiality of it, that the whole, it's like this treasure and magic, everything is in that very matter of fact skeleton ground. And it's like the more we connect with that, the richer the experience is. So that's something I think so wonderful, such a gift. The kind of skeletal approach for me. It's very much part of the way. Also, I'm a dance artist, and I'm very skeletal in the way that I teach, in the way that I create, um, and of course the connection to the mouth and to all the kind of the ring muscles in the body. So, I mean, exploration that we do with the pelvic floor when I teach pelvic floor awareness is very much with the eyes, with the mouth, these connections. And when you start to just pay attention to it, it's there. Like you say, it's there. When we do movement of kissing, we can feel the pelvic floor. When we whistle, we can feel the pelvic floor. When we eat, we can feel the pelvic floor. And it just become, the more awareness we bring into the area, the more that it becomes part of our experience of ourselves. And then and like you say, this kind of like, and I've experienced it with my students, that for some people it's about the breath. The breath is fuller. For some people it's about balance that change. For some people it's about their sexuality. Suddenly they start to dream and start to feel things that they haven't felt for maybe never. So it is so much in the center of our experience, and it connects to so much, to our digestion, to our breath, to the movement in the hip joints. There's a very strong connection between the pelvic floor and the diaphragm. So that's kind of the work with the pelvic floor is very much a doorway to the work with the diaphragm. So yeah, I feel like it's so much, but when we work with in this somatic way and with Feldenkrais, we found that I can work with the palms of the hands for months, or with the feet, and it's all connected and it's all very rich. But there's something with with the hands, we all we do so much with the hands already.
yes.
The pelvic floor is again this kind of like cultural and yeah. So I love that you are as passionate as I am about kind of coming back to it. And for me, I started to teach it, and I'm not teaching it all the time. I'm teaching it in like series of sometimes 8 weeks or 9 weeks. And it's every time that I'm doing it, I'm teaching it, and then I go back to everything else that I'm doing. And it's like times in my life when I suddenly, it happens about 5 times a year when I feel like, I really need that sense of, to kind of remind myself of my strength, of my kind of sense of uprightness, sense that's like, oh, I need to teach the pelvic floor series again. That I need to come back to this work. And it's so, every time it's just like this, a gift that we have, you know, it's such a beautiful tool to come back to it every time.
Yes.
Sense of resilience. And it's also the vulnerability, you know, we connect with a vulnerable area, and I want to, you know, acknowledge that it's vulnerable, that there can be trauma around it, but it's almost from that vulnerability we also find this sense of resilience.
Yes.
Yeah.
And resilience. I love that you point out that it's a center of strength and vulnerability as well, and resilience. And working with the pelvic floor it's like the alpha and the omega. It's like the eternal return. Is the practice that keeps on giving. And as much taboo as it may be, you mentioned something that is key to like get rid of the inhibitions and the false moralities around the pelvic floor, that is the skeletal reference and the ground. Like it's not something that someone said and wrote somewhere and what. No, it's physical. It's there. Like the pelvic floor, it's in the pelvis, and the pelvis has this floor. So you eat an apple, and the apple doesn't fall to the floor immediately, because there's otherwise, like the stomach and the gallbladder will fall out between the legs. So the pelvic floor is a physical reality. So
it's a functional. It has so many functions, of course.
It has many functions,
and one of the and some of the functions are to do with pleasure, which is
which is fundamental. And the pelvic floor is pleasurable, and it's pleasurable in an immense and singular spectrum of pleasure. Because if it wouldn't be pleasurable to pee, like when you really want to pee and you're in the airport and you can find the toilet and you finally find the toilet and it's like, if it wasn't pleasurable to pee, then we wouldn't have survived until now. And if sex wouldn't be pleasurable,
if it was
so
if it was painful, and it brings me back to a conversation we had in the past of for many women or men, I'm not so, there's a sense of pain, you know, there's pain, and it can be in peeing or in any other function, but when it comes to a sexual experience, when our experience is experience of pain or discomfort, when we are not connected to movement in this area, it's very hard to experience pleasure. You know, pain is so much louder.
Pain is so much louder, and it's inhibiting, not morally, but at the physical level. So it's very important to understand like the health importance, relevance, and benefits of a functional pelvic floor, and also the emotional importance of a sensual pelvic floor. And I feel that it's very important to understand like the wide spectrum of the function of the pelvic floor, as wide as pleasure is, because often people even some people that I've invited, and even myself, we sometimes freak out about pleasure and we don't freak out about sex, because like sex is something that happens and you can put in a box, but pleasure, it's so unique and it's so personal, and it's so important to understand that it can be pleasurable to pee, it can be pleasurable to move the pelvic floor without relating to that area of your body sexually, while it can also be sexual. So it's there's a spectrum that goes
in the same way
a mouth, yeah, like it's
or a hand, or
yeah,
when we start to experience, to allow ourselves to experience, and our mouth can be such a source for pleasure, as it is very functional in many other ways.
Yeah. So we are very marked in an over sexualized way. Like you see the advertisings everywhere, and there's like a certain societal notion that the body is about about sex only. So, and then when people go to sex and they are not used to relating to their bodily sensations, they have sex without much pleasure. So I believe that a key to being more comfortable exploring the pelvic floor is that, first of all, your pelvic floor is yours to do whatever you want with that area of your body. Like take ownership and exert your authority upon every corner of your wondrous being, and from there, like explore the full spectrum, like the mouth. Like it's pleasurable to wear lip balm, it's pleasurable to eat, it's pleasurable to kiss someone, it's pleasurable just to be there feeling the saliva ponds beneath the tongue. And and I mean, the mouth also can be great in sex, so as every corner of your body. So a great invitation for me, after doing this movement experience that you shared with us, Sharon, is to explore with curiosity the pelvic floor and get in touch with the nuances. Like, this is how my pelvic floor feels when breathing. This is how it feels when peeing. This is how it feels when I am with my beloved or with the baker. I don't know, or whatever you fancy. Yeah. So like, don't be afraid of getting in touch with your body, because actually you are your body. And
and you can always come back, like you said, always come back to these anchors of the skeleton. I think it really helps to I love it. I have a special love to the sitting bones. I think they're just so beautiful.
They are not,
and this materiality. The materiality, the contact with the ground, the contact of my skeleton with the ground, you can touch your skeleton. It's something very concrete that we can always come back to, like these anchors. It's like, and then we can start to sense around it. So I think that's really important. Sense it in walking, when you're carrying things, when you come up to stand, when you come down. It's and as much as you sense the pelvic floor, it's also the whole body around it. It's all connected. It's not separate in any way.
Like you said, the pelvic area and the pelvic area dances with the diaphragm and with the circular muscles that you mentioned. Sharon, this is fantastic. How can we know more about your work with the pelvic floor and all your doings?
I teach the pelvic floor series on Zoom and in the space. I live in England, in the southwest of England. So if you live in England, I would love to hear from you. I run workshops of Feldenkrais, awareness to movement, and taking it into improvisation. I'm also working my main kind of somatic exploration in the last 10 years is very much in the environment, outside on the land, which is a whole kind of another topic that I'm very passionate about. Mainly for me, it's about rocks and pebbles, the same way that I'm in love with the skeleton and the bones. I'm very much, I get so much from working with rocks. So I'm teaching workshops, and I'm teaching awareness through movement classes and functional integration, individual lessons. So it's all, yeah. And some of it is on Zoom. So
we should actually all travel to visit you in England.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to come and visit me.
I'm gonna be very for you, and then do a lot of.
We should all come and visit you.
Also, everyone should come visit me. I hope soon I can offer something at the space where the two owls live here on the second.
Oh yeah, you told me about your owls. Yeah.
Sharon, do you have like an Instagram account or?
I have a Facebook page. I'm not very technical kind of person, but I have a Facebook page. So if you go to Sharon Gimpel, Feldenkrais, you'll find me on Facebook, and then you can get in touch with me.
Okay, Sharon Gimpel.
Yeah.
we will link your Facebook page here around. Thank you so much for being.
Thank you, and I'm looking forward to speak with you soon again. Not here, but
but we continued, and also another episode soon, hopefully. Yes.
Thank you so much for creating that space. It's so important, and yeah.
It's a pleasure, Sharon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Sensualists, that you're watching this video, listening to this Sensual Sessions podcast. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Sensual emails to get these episodes delivered weekly in your email inbox. Until then, remember to sense your fire so you can share your flame. See you next time.